Coffee Talk with Debra.Adams, where we chat to change. We've been going through our book, Diamonds from Despair, and we completed the chapters that I wrote for the book as we were talking about forgiveness, the Word of God, the power of prayer, in line with how God used His power to change two people and restore a relationship. I am really excited today and for the next few episodes because my wonderful husband Tracy has volunteered to join us to share about those chapters that he has written in our journey of forgiveness. So thanks, babe, for spending time with us.
You're welcome.
One of the things that I love about Tracy's writing is his use of words. The title of this chapter is Looking into the Abyss. And so I had to look up what abyss was. There were two key words. One was chasm, which was a divide that is created from a change in the environment. And then there was the other one about an immeasurable and bottomless pit. So what I was thinking that he was going to do was talk about how people that are in relationship, whether it's in a marriage or work or a family dynamic, you're going along in your journey in your relationship, and then one has a change in their behavior or does something, and bam, it causes a division, and which creates a chasm and then a deep hole. And depending on how severe that behavior was, I was thinking, okay, well then it must create an abyss, which is that bottomless pit where you feel hopeless and that there's no opportunity or light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's where I thought you were going to go as you were writing this. But as we've been talking about it, you took a little different take on it. And so I'd like you to kind of share what that is, and then hopefully everyone's going to get the book, and because I know we can only share just a little bit as we're going through this. So.
Well, when I started writing the chapters, what I had in mind for this particular chapter, and I wrote the chapter, of course, before I titled it, but what I was looking at is on the backside of the breach in covenant, one takes a look at themselves. And in looking at having that introspective look at yourself, that is the abyss. Because you begin to see your human nature in light of the standard that God has set. And what I had realized was that the greatest abyss, the greatest bottomless pit or divide is really the human nature. And so that's why I wrote or entitled the chapter Looking into the Abyss, because at that point I was looking at myself and how dark and how hopeless and how full of despair my human nature was, because I had allowed this thing to happen outside of my relationship with God. In other words, because I had not given myself completely over to Him, my human nature caused me to go into this place of disobedience or covenant breaking. So that's what I meant when I was talking about looking into the abyss, because I don't believe there's any greater abyss than the human nature.
Okay, so that really is different than what I had originally thought that you were going to talk about, but it's so good, and it makes me, I guess, wonder and make sure that I really understand it. So is what you're saying is that in breaching a covenant or in just the treatment in relationships, we really can't blame anyone else for our actions, but that our actions are totally our own responsibility, and we have to look at our own nature.
Absolutely. I know that when I was writing the chapter, I knew there was a desire of the flesh to be able to point to some other outside reason to give me a way out. But truly, there is no outside influence other than your human nature rebelling against the edicts and the principles and the standards that God has set. And so it's in that warfare, and that's what I talk about in the chapter. It's in that warfare that we choose either to obey God or not obey God. We choose to line ourselves up with the will of God or not line ourselves with the will of God. And it doesn't really matter what anybody else does.
Okay.
Because our commitment is to Him. It's not, my commitment to be a good husband is not really to you. My commitment to be a good husband is to the Father. So
Okay.
regardless of what you do, I still have my commitment to keep. And same for you. And it's not only in marriage, but it's in any real Christian relationship or Christian relationship. Our responsibility is to the Father.
Amen. Yes.
Because if we understand what true lordship is, then we have to also understand that we have been bought with a price. We are no longer our own. We have checked our free will at the door.
Huh.
So we don't have any excuses when it comes to whether or not we're going to treat people right or whether we're not. We don't have choices like that any longer if we're truly submitted to God. Our choice has been made in lordship. That's our choice.
Right.
At that point, we simply follow what He tells us to do.
Okay.
And so when I'm looking into the abyss, I'm trying to find a way to squirm out and say, well, the devil made me do it. No, the flesh made you do it. Your flesh made you rebel because you didn't take care of the small things leading up to that breach. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in some of the other chapters. But in the final analysis, we are our own worst enemies because we choose not to go through the discipline part of our relationship with the Father.
That is really, really good. And you're right, we are going to go into some of the other details of that as we move forward. So we will stop right now. We'll end the first chapter about looking into the abyss and give you an opportunity to send us messages on our Facebook. You can do that at Adams Family Ministries. And we'll see you next time on Coffee Talk.
Bye-bye.